Section 2. The Peace Treaty of Versailles and its Aftermath. Introduction. In this study section, you will examine peace settlement popularly referred to as the Treaty of Versailles. In doing so, you will learn about the brains behind the peace conference. Also of utmost importance to be studied are the terms of the settlement and its implication for global world peace. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this section, you should be able to 1. Point out the reasons why the Versailles Peace Conference was convened. 2. Explain the role of Woodrow Wilson's 14 points in the peace settlement. 3. Describe the details of the peace settlement. 4. Discuss the criticism of the Treaty of Versailles. The Versailles Settlement, 1919. The Versailles Peace Conference took place between January and June 1919. The treaty with Germany being signed on 28 June 1919 in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. As part of general settlement arrangement, treaties were signed between allies and other enemy powers, namely the Treaty of Saint-Germain with Austria, the Treaty of Neuilly with Bulgaria, the Treaty of Trianon with Hungary, and the Treaty of Sèvres with Turkey. Details of the settlement. The outcome of the peace meeting held at Versailles is referred to as the Treaty of Versailles. The terms of the treaty was presented to German representatives on 7 May 1919, though without their input. They refused to admit the war guilt clause, which made the Germans aggressors in the First World War. At this point, Lord George of Britain tried to secure a few modifications in Germany's favor, but the Allies refused to alter the war guilt clause. The details of the treaty are pointed out as follows. Terms of Treaty on Germany. 1. Germany lost the 2 territories of Alsace and Lorraine to France. 2. The territories of Eupen and Malmedy were lost to Belgium. 3. Schleswig was to Denmark. Some territories were given to Poland. 4. Germany agreed that Danzig City should remain a free city under the control of the League of Nations. 5. She lost all her colonies to the victorious Allies. 6. Her army was restricted to a force of 100,000 soldiers, just enough to maintain a severe depleted territory. Besides, conscription in Germany had to be abolished. 7. The Rhineland was demilitarized. This was also in addition to the fact that our naval strength was restricted to bare minimum and the construction of battleships and submarines came to an end. 8. Germany was forced to accept the war guilt and therefore had to pay very heavy reparations of £6,500,000,000 to be paid in installments in money and kind. Key personalities in the Versailles Conference. This conference was dominated by 3 outstanding personalities whose views and ambitions reflected in the decisions that were taken at the Peace Conference. They were Woodrow Wilson, USA, Lord George, Great Britain, and George Clemenceau, France. Thomas Woodrow Wilson, U.S. President, he was sincere in his desire to see real justice done at Versailles, opposed to the public opinions that Germany must be punished for plunging the whole world into calamities. Lord George, British Prime Minister, a subtle diplomat who will not risk his impeachment at home. Lear wanted justice, but he did not want revenge. He tried to get a compromise between Wilson and Clemenceau. George Clemenceau, French Prime Minister. Arising from the humiliation France suffered from Prussia in 1871, Clemenceau was an embittered opponent of everything Germany. Woodrow Wilson position at the conference. President Wilson of America was an idealist who was absolutely certain that he had the answers to the world's problem. He found Lloyd George of Britain and George Clemenceau of France difficult to get on with, and eventually had to give way on a number of issues. Although he had good intentions for Europe and the world at large, but he was not well informed on European affairs. He was sincere in his desire to see real justice done at Versailles and was opposed to the public opinions in both Britain and France that Germany must be punished for plunging the whole world into calamities. Wilson, of course, saw in such demands and attitudes the seeds of future conflicts. George Clemenceau's position at the conference. Clemenceau had to crack position at the conference derived from the humiliation France had suffered from Prussia in 1871. Thus, he was an embittered opponent of everything Germany and also a fanatical upholder of the idea of French glory and power. In fact, his concern at the peace treaty was to guarantee security of France and possibly recover the lost territories of Alsace and Lorraine from Germany. Lloyd George's position at the conference. Lloyd George was a subtle diplomat in spite of the fact that he had earlier promised the electorate in his electioneering campaign in Britain in 1918 that he would hang the Kaiser and make Germany pay. He was, however, unable to realize his ambition fully because back home in Britain, he headed a coalition government containing a number of members quite as anti-German as George Clemenceau of France. Assessing the treaty. Woodrow Wilson's 14 points and the peace settlement. President Woodrow Wilson of America, after the First World War had settled down and analyzed the causes of the international strife and the outcome of which was 14 points, it is important to state that the Germans had earlier signed the armistice on the understanding that the 14 points enunciated by President Wilson in January 1918 would be the basis for peace settlement. This 14 points was to serve as the basis for assessing the outcome of the peace settlement by the critics. Highlight of Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. A. All diplomacy and negotiations between states to be carried on frankly and in public view. B. Absolute freedom of navigation on the seas, both in peace and war, except in territorial waters or for international action. C. Equality of trade conditions between nations and the removal of economic barriers so far as possible. D. The nations to give guarantees that they would disarm to the lowest point consistent with domestic safety. E. When the question of colonies was being settled, the interest of the colonial peoples themselves must be given equal weight with those of the government putting forward claims to titles over them. F. Evacuation of all Russian territory and assistance of every kind that she may need and may herself desire. G. Belgium to be completely freed. H. France to receive back Alsace, Lorraine. I. Italy to receive frontiers along clearly recognizable lines of nationality. J. The peoples of Austria-Hungary to be given the opportunity of independent self-government. K. Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro to be evacuated and Serbia given access to the sea. L. Non-Turkish peoples now under Turkish rule to be given independence and the Dardanelles to be open to the ships and commerce of all nations. M. An independent Poland to be established, inhabited by indisputably Polish populations. N. An international organization to be formed to guarantee the independence of all states, both great and small. Criticism of Treaty of Versailles. The task that confronted the statesman was no doubt the need to maintain peace at all costs. However, in this respect, perfection was not possible. Therefore, there were various shades of opinions as to what constituted justice towards Germany. Thus, the criticisms that arose from the terms of the Versailles Treaty are explainable using part of the Woodrow Wilson's 14-point as yardstick. 1. Scholars argue that before the conference, Wilson himself had qualified his 14 points by declaring himself in favor of secrecy over delicate matters. At the conference, the Council of Four deliberated in secret. 2. Lord George refused to accept this, and it was never incorporated in any articles of the treaty or the League of Nations. Britain's naval and trading interests were the deciding factor here. 3. German colonies were held as mandates by various members of the Allied powers. Initially, it appeared to be an improvement on the old colonial system, but the future was to show that only in a few of the mandatory territories were the real wishes of the inhabitants considered. Studies section summary. In this studies section, you learned 1. Why the Versailles Peace Conference was convened. 2. The roles of the three elder statesmen, Woodrow Wilson, Lord George, and George Clemenceau, in the Versailles Peace Settlement. 3. The highlight of the Woodrow Wilson's 14 points and its relevance to the peace settlement. 4. The details of the peace settlement and its effects on Germany economically, demographically, politically, and militarily. And 5. The various criticisms against the Treaty of Versailles. This is the end of Studies Section 2. Thanks for listening.